Now, all the noise that Maruti Suzuki is creating about the Ignis will tell you that this car is targeted towards the millennials. Now, this is largely accepted as a group of people who are born between the mid-80s and the early 90s. And that's quite a tricky batch, and the needs even trickier. So we are here to find out how much of it the Ignis can fulfill. The Ignis looks funky and certainly scores high on the desirability quotient. Unlike the current trend, Suzuki doesn't subscribe to a hard-coded design theme, and that works in this car's favor. Interestingly then, it tries to achieve a balance between hatchback dimensions, a crossover stance, and retro styling cues. The hatchback dimensions give it almost the same footprint as the Swift, and a size that is comparable to the Grand i10. The crossover or the compact SUV stance comes courtesy of a high ground clearance, small overhangs, and the flared wheel arches. Choose the top-end trim and you also get the additional cladding for better rough road protection. Going with the current trend is the retro theme, which gives it a boxy design and a funky C-pillar that draws inspiration from Suzukis that were conceived at a time when the word millennials wasn't even coined. I think the front end of the Ignis is going to create a lot of buzz, especially that big seamless piece of mesh that you get on the front end that runs across the width of the car. Looks quite great with its floating headlamp design. And even on the lower variants which do not get the LED DRLs or the LED headlamps, it still manages to look quite handsome and will stand out from its peers. You heard that right. LED headlamps, which is a segment first. Millennials are eager to prove that they are no less than their global counterparts, and the Ignis resonates with that philosophy to an extent. That's also the reason why I believe that the top trims will be its best sellers. Step in and you will be happy to see a completely new approach from Maruti Suzuki. The cabin looks fresh and youthful, while the quality of plastics is on par with other Nexa cars. There is a sense of occasion in here with the bright colors for the trim and the lighting. The quirky body color door handles, so does the 4 carbon fiber trim and an infotainment unit which sticks out from the dash. Its operating system is familiar and now compatible with both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. While the top trim gets a tablet-like touchscreen, the lower trims get a conventional system, but the funky arrangement makes it look quite hip. However, this design also offsets the conventional placement of the AC vents and directs the airflow straight to the steering wheel, freezing your fingers. There are plenty of storage spaces in the doors, the tunnel console, and the dash. All these spaces and the switches are easy to reach. Seat height adjustment. It's only available in the top spec trim, which means that both the automatics, the petrol and the diesel, which are only available in the mid-spec trims, do not get it. Which also means that if you have a short frame and are looking for an automatic transmission vehicle, the Ignis may not give you the right driving position. The seats are quite accommodating though, and for my average Indian height, they offer a commanding view of the road despite their fixed height in the lower variants. Ingress and egress can be a bit of a challenge for tall people, but the rear seat space is quite comfortable. The legroom is an improvement over models like the Ritz or the Swift, and the tallboy design gives it good headroom too. Now, the rear seats of the Euro spec Ignis also are adjustable for rake and recline. Indian version, however, doesn't get it, but it would have been an awesome addition, would have made it a nice tourer. Another trend that we see with the millennial generation is the increasing migration of millennials from the rural areas into the urban cities, and that has sort of given rise to more nuclear families. And that probably explains why this car is more of a 4-seater. At the back you get enough space only for 2 adults or maybe 3 kids at the most. Responsibly enough, you also get these safe ISOFIX points on the rear bench for mounting child seats. The boot is fairly large for a weekend's worth of luggage, but the tall bumper makes for a high loading lip. Overall, the Ignis is a smart-looking car with enough features and cargo space to keep a nuclear family happy. Let's talk about the performance now. The Ignis borrows Suzuki's 5th generation platform that also underpins the Baleno, but improves it further. The result is that it tips the scales at a little over 800 kilos, which is quite light for a car of this footprint. Now they say that millennials want instant gratification, instant jobs, instant promotion, instant dates by just swiping left or right, instant love, instant food, instant everything. You know what I mean. This car, however, may not subscribe to that philosophy, at least as far as the engines go. Both the petrol and the diesel do not give you instantaneous power. The petrol puts out all its power up top, so you really need to rev this engine to get anywhere. The diesel, well, it's a known fact with the multi-jet or the DDIS diesel motor, there is a fair amount of turbo lag. So till the turbos pull up to about 2200 to 2500 RPM, there is no punch. You just have to sort of live with that turbo lag. And it's only past that it gives you a good mid-range to play around with. So like I said, power isn't instantaneous. Power comes from either a 1.2 litre petrol or a 1.3 litre diesel, both of which we have seen in the Baleno and the Swift. These can either be specified with a 5-speed manual gearbox or a 5-speed AMT or AGS in Maruti Suzuki speak. No instant power, but neither of these engines are boring, and both have their own virtues. I'm so glad that Maruti decided not to use their favorite 1 litre K-series motor and go with the 1.2 instead. Now, it's natural for a car maker like Maruti Suzuki and a lightweight chassis like the Ignis to both come together and use a 1 litre motor, a frugal engine at that, so that they could claim some ridiculous fuel economy figures. Thankfully, they haven't done that. What you get instead is the sprightly 1.2 that you also get in the Baleno and the Swift. But in this lightweight chassis, it just feels so much more fun to drive. I love the way it races to its red line. I love the kind of sounds that it makes past the 5000 RPM mark. It is quite a refined motor and reaches triple-digit speeds without much effort. But it feels quick revving only when you go pedal to the metal. In-gear acceleration feels a bit pale in comparison, necessitating a downshift for overtakes. This nature is also highlighted further with the automated transmission, but the latter seems to have a quicker response than its peers and is easily one of the best AMTs in this price point. Furthermore, it also manages to safeguard the peppy nature of this engine. Unlike the CVT, want to nurture the petrol head in you? This might be a good starting point. The diesel variant doesn't share the cheerful vibe of its petrol counterpart, but is the ideal mile muncher. There is a meaty mid-range torque to help you pull quick overtakes or cruise on the highway with impressive fuel economy. It is also the go-to choice if you are planning to load the car often and head out for long road trips. It isn't the most refined engine in the business, but its age and market penetration ensures easy and low-cost service. Both the gearboxes work quite well with this motor. The AMT, however, was a little erratic on our test car. But that said, the Ignis has significantly reduced the annoying shift pause that is inherent to automated transmissions. Another good thing about the millennials, because of all the technology that surrounds them, they are very well aware, very well exposed to all the developments in technology all around the world. That has sort of driven them to keenly look into the safety aspect of the vehicle that they are buying. Thankfully, even the car makers are now supporting the whole viewpoint, also taking a keen interest in providing as much safety as possible in their vehicles. The Ignis comes with standard ABS all across the range. You also get the front airbags as standard across all trims. Now, at the Euro NCAP tests that were conducted recently, the Ignis, the Euro spec model, got 2 ratings, a 4-star and a 3-star rating. The 4-star came courtesy of an automated braking system that is fitted onto the Ignis. The 3-star rating came for the car without the automated braking, but for the vehicle that also had side airbags. Now, in the frontal collision tests, the results were not very satisfactory. The side impact collision test, the result was better than expected, let's put it that way. Now, though this particular car that is sold to us in India gets a similar structural rigidity or similar side impact protection, it doesn't get the side airbags, which were the key factor for the 3-star rating. So that does raise questions on how safe the Ignis is despite the ABS and despite the airbags. But it is still a step in the right direction where the car maker is offering these basic safety elements as a standard fitment, and it's also setting a precedent for the other car makers to follow. No matter what variant you choose, the Ignis is a very well-mannered highway driver. High-speed stability, very good. Noise insulation is surprisingly good at highway speeds as well, as far as the road noise and the engine noise are concerned. Now, we know the multijet or the DDIS motor is a noisy operator, and Maruti has done an excellent job of filtering out all those noises. What they haven't managed though is filtering out the wind noise. Even at about 80 kilometers an hour, you probably are hearing all the wind noise that I am hearing inside the cabin. Apart from that, it's a nice place to be in. The only thing that is sort of a weak link for this vehicle is the steering setup. I used to love the steering on the Alto. I used to love the steering on the Swift. This one, the electronic power steering, just doesn't feel as well connected. It lacks feedback. It just doesn't communicate as well with you. There's this dead at center feel, and even at speed, the steering doesn't really weigh up much, and that sort of kills the fun a bit. The suspension of the Ignis is set slightly to the firmer side. It doesn't have that squishy nature of the Baleno at turn-in. It doesn't even have that bouncy feedback that you get from some of the other Maruti Suzuki cars. It feels quite taut at that. Undulations, it takes them very well. It's quite silent as well as compared to most other Maruti Suzukis. It's only on deeper potholes or some really sharp bumps or at speed that you can hear the suspension doing its work. But otherwise, the suspension remains quite silent for a car of this category, and it's quite an achievement. With the wheels pushed to the far corners of the car, the Ignis has impressive dynamics overall. The tires and the brakes are predictable, but upgrade to stickier rubber and you will have a serious corner cover too. Take it off the road and it will impress there too. It's light, agile and has a petrol motor that is eager but without any overwhelming power. And that can plaster a wide smile on your face. I don't know when was the last time I had so much fun in a sub 10 lakh rupee car. This little thing is amazing. It's just amazing. Maruti Suzuki has built quite a few fun to drive cars in its illustrious past. You have the 800, you have the Alto, the Zen, the Swift Diesel. At different points of time, they have managed to make a place in the hearts of driving enthusiasts. The Ignis is the current one. It's the new one that joins the league and takes forward that legacy. It's easily the slickest city car that Suzuki has ever built.